Hello, and welcome to the YBMB Show, the show brought to you by the YBMB program. Those of you who have been following, you know that I run this show 3 times a week, and we go to a timetable where on Mondays we talk about body and body transformations and tips for that. And on Wednesdays, we talk about upgrading your mindset and how to really sort of help with consistency and implementation. And then on Fridays, we talk about business, but of course today is not Friday, it's Thursday. And we've adjusted the slot because I was super keen to get this lovely lady on the program, Natalie Workman. So welcome to you, Natalie, and thank you so much for joining us from over in the States. It's early morning there, isn't it?
It is early morning. I get to watch the sunrise and there's mountains here. It's gorgeous.
Beautiful, yeah. We're going to talk today about building high performance teams. And those of you who have not met Natalie before online, you can follow her Instagram. And she's done a tremendous job, particularly over the last year, creating wonderful programs for business owners, and particularly Natalie's focus with her partners. She has a number of partners, but her own focus is on building high performance teams. She runs a podcast called Workwoman, which talks precisely about that. And if you're a podcast listener, do subscribe to that. But she also plays a big part on the 10x 360 program. And so what I wanted Natalie to do today was to talk to us about that program, but in particular to talk about how you go about building high performance teams, particularly in this particular situation that we're in a pandemic, and lots of people being in startup mode. And you're not just dealing with business strategies, you're dealing with emotions as well, and people sort of concerned and wondering what the next step should be for them. So maybe we start, Natalie, with a little bit of an intro about your program overall, and then we'll get a bit more into the detail.
Yeah, for sure. So the 10x 360 program is us helping business owners across the world who are looking to scale and grow. And there's a lot of business advice out there, and some of it is good. Some of it doesn't actually work when it comes to the primary goal of the business owner being to scale and grow. Oftentimes we find that people have just learned bad advice or have not really talked to people who have done something that has taken a business and scaled it to a second location or a third location and then sold it for X amount of a multiple of EBITDA earnings before interest, taxes, and depreciation and amortization. If we have some finance people, we're talking the same language on here. But the 10x 360 program is intended to go to a deep dive into marketing, finance, and then on the people side, that's where I come in and talk about how do you build a team, whether you're starting from just you yourself as a solo entrepreneur, or if you're talking about a team that has locations all across the world. We range from very small business owners to large business owners because there's different breakpoints that every business owner has, and they need to know what the team is supposed to look like, how to get the clients that they want, and how to run the internal operations in order to not just service today, but also get to where they want to be in 10 years from now.
Yeah, what I'd love to talk about initially is those who are in startup mode, because when I talk to sort of coach people as to how to sort of start a business, one of the things that I always point them to is the E-Myth. I don't know if you've read that, and the E-Myth Revisited. Yeah, it's a great intro, I think, to business, and it encourages new business owners to actually think about what they're building and to reflect on sort of the entity itself as separate to them, as opposed to, creating a new job for themselves. What would your advice be to people who find themselves in startup mode? Maybe they've had a business previously, or maybe they haven't. And, they may have many willing people keen to sort of join them, including friends, including family. It is a bit of a different environment at the moment.
Yes.
What would you say to them in terms of their first steps to sort of build that team that performs? Because they're not going to be able to necessarily be with them hands-on and help them, grow within the role.
Yeah. Love E-Myth. E-Myth is amazing. It's such a great way to get people to start thinking different about not just being the technician in the business, but actually coming at the business saying, okay, how do I build a prototype that I can be removed from? And so if you are a solopreneur, the first thing that you have to focus on is you being the high performance team, like you being the person that is creating that environment in your organization so that you are attracting other people who are like that. If you're not willing to do what you're going to ask other people to do, that's like, you're never going to be able to scale and grow and find people who want more, because high performers know what high performers look like. They know what time they wake up. They know that they're goal oriented. They know that they want transparency into their performance. So if you're looking at a sales role and you're only willing at first to make 100 calls, but then you're asking somebody else to make 200 calls or 300 calls a day, there's a missing link there. And that is unfortunately you. And so if you are a high performer and you're creating a business and you're by yourself right now, one, continue to be a high performer and demonstrate and promote to people that this is how hard you work, this is what you're building. But the second piece of that is you have to know at least some idea of what you want to build. And the way that we break that down is, a lot of people have a mission statement or a vision statement, and they kind of talk about it as if it's, they don't really know who they're talking to. They might think that they're talking to their customer. But as an organization, when you have a mission statement, a vision statement, and core values, you're actually describing who you're looking for team members to join you. It has nothing to do with your customer. You run your customer through a brand house and through different personas. And that's for our CMO to talk about. And he goes very deep into that. But your mission statement is why you exist. And if you're talking to potential team members about why you exist, they have to have the same passion for who you're serving. So for us, that's business owners. We are so passionate about helping small business owners who are stuck get out of being stuck. And there are a lot of people, for me, both my parents were small business owners. And so I'm very passionate about being able to help people like them who didn't have access to this type of information. That's a pull for me. I'm drawn to this organization and this mission because of that. The second piece of that is the vision statement is where the business is going. And so if I know why I'm here and I'm connected to what we do every day, because it's hard, there's no question. Like, business is freaking hard.
Yeah.
We deal with that all day, every day. And there's no motivational quote. I have this thing on my desk here that says, "You got this." And most of the time, I don't feel like I've got this. Even though I do, I don't feel like it all the time. And so I remember the why and then the where we're going. And both of those things combined pull me into the business and create motivation on the days when I just don't wake up with it.
I think it's so important to acknowledge that. And sometimes business owners need to hear that from people that appear to be very, very successful, because you can be very successful, but also feel like you just described that, you're not where you want to be. Things keep breaking. I was listening to something just last night from Peter Diamandis. I don't know if you've come across his work, and, and he talks about some of the billionaires who their main mantra is, if it's broke, fix it. And, just keep on keeping on. And eventually, the one thing you can guarantee is not necessarily a date when you're going to be successful in your own eyes, which often we're our, harshest judge as to what success is. But, you can guarantee that you're going to keep on and keep on. And that is something I think is so important to acknowledge to people, particularly at this time, particularly in startup mode. One of the things before we sort of moved on to some other things was, what do you think is the connection between being physically fit and showing up as a business owner that is a role model? Because my program is Your Body Means Business. I think that there is a tremendously strong link between having a strong body, which in turn impacts a strong mindset, which in turn enables you to have the energy and commitment to follow through with business strategies, which are tough to do consistently. What's your take on that and your experience with all the business owners you've worked with?
We are so aligned on that, from a personal standpoint. If I know that I have an insecurity about my physical body and I'm not willing to do what it takes to fix that, and that's something that affects me when I put clothes on in the morning. It affects me when I'm choosing what clothes to buy or to go on a stage and present in. If I know that I'm not willing to address that and to handle it, then I'm losing confidence in my ability to say, I want something different for myself, and I'm able to take the steps necessary in order to do that. Because at the end of the day, it is getting to the gym. It is making the right decisions. And so for me, I think that there's such a strong connection. And as soon as people commit physically, it's so much easier to make harder decisions in business and to commit into business because you know that you're already doing the thing that is on you. Like you are this body that we have in this lifetime. And so I highly encourage business owners who aren't taking that side of their life seriously to start to look at that and say, if you did have this different body that you want, how would that impact your ability to show up to your team, to your community, to your customer, and feel more confident in the sales process or the operations or whatever it is that they're specifically running?
And I think, again, success in business is a lot of it comes down to consistency. I know I've heard you before and Brandon as well talking about, for example, if you're in sales, doing at least doing the 25 calls per day before we start talking about anything else. It's about consistency day in and day out. Some people who've been on my program, one guy in particular, I was talking about, to him yesterday, and he's done, amazing things with his body, and surprise, surprise, that's followed through with his business. And what he was saying was that, with the consistency now of the different tools that we've taught him, he's implemented that same approach in his business, and, his P&L has gone up, his sales have obviously gone up, and, he's really excited about the future. So in terms of sort of consistency in the business, how do we sort of, as role models and business owners, and we'll come on to sort of members of the team in a moment, but, as business leaders, when we've got so much being thrown at us, how do we remember to ensure that the consistency is taking place? Because I know from my own experience, but as your business grows and you get more people working for you and you think all the processes and procedures are sorted, and you're under the impression that everything is as you sort of agreed it would be, and then something falls over and you come back and you say, hang on a minute. And they say, no, we don't do it like that anymore. So how do you address that?
If a business is growing, the processes have to break constantly. And I love what you were talking about earlier with billionaires talking about the fact that if something is broken, you fix it. And that's inherent with growth problems. So it's a good thing that it's not working the way that you originally want it to. However, having insight into it and being able to guide and shift the pieces that need to go back to how it was working, but you have more clients or there's more team members that are now a part of this process and it has to be reworked, that's a wonderful thing. But from the consistency standpoint, I know that my team will not do the things that I ask them to do unless they know that I'm looking at those things. So the idea of inspecting what you expect, you have to pick the things that actually add the most value to the business. So it's not everything. I don't want to be writing my team members like I am their mother, saying this is exactly how it has to be done and focusing on the small thing. But the piece that I know adds value to the business, whether it's to the client or for me, more so than the client facing side, is I know that I'm building a process that is going to funnel hundreds, if not thousands of clients over the next 36 months. And so for me, it's really paying attention to, if my ops team member gets hit by a bus tomorrow, how is the whole organization going to be impacted by that? And what process do I need to put in place to make sure that client data is being kept and not transitioned from person to person? Like, I'm protecting the system and figuring out where it's breaking. And so those pieces I ensure a high level of consistency to. And the way that I do that is through incentive compensation plans. Our comp plans are not just based off of sales, they're also based off of the processes that are followed and the very few steps that I know are critical to the business not breaking in the future.
Love that. So inspecting what you expect, protecting the system. I know also that you're a big fan of role playing, aren't you? You do that on a very consistent basis, and you tend to do that in the morning. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, role playing, you don't want your team members practicing on your customers. And so role play, if I can get somebody to confront their fear of closing, or if I can get somebody to confront how they're going to handle a client concern that's going to come up, I'm less on the sales side of our organization and I'm more on the operations. Brandon, my fiance and the CEO of the company, is very sales driven. He's amazing at that. I am really good at process and structure and systems. And so for the role play on our team, that looks like we know that we have a client that's not happy. So I'm going to pretend to be the client and come with them with the concern so that they can just work out that pitch. And to the extent that they know that that it's okay to work it out and that they don't have to come into our organization fully being able to acknowledge and motivate and ask the right questions to clients, that's okay. I'm just like, okay, how do we work this out? How do we get you not scared of this so that you can really have a constructive conversation? They're always nervous at first. I remember the first time I role played, it's terrifying. And then you just get in the habit of it because you know you get better. It's like working out. You get better when you do it more often, and then you can elevate to being able to speak publicly and being able to do some things that most people are so terrified and they just won't confront it.
Yeah, repetition is the mother of skill, as Tony Robbins has said frequently. One of the things that I wanted to ask you about hiring individuals into a team is if you were looking at skill and experience in the role versus attitude, would you hire just for attitude sometimes, or are you always looking for a combination? What do you think is the most important, and what's your take on that?
I think it depends on where the business is at and what type of problems the business is experiencing. But I would always, like, as if somebody put a gun to my head and say, which one would you take? I would much rather take the person who is willing to do the work versus the person who's really skilled at something. Because oftentimes what I find is people who are highly skilled at something, they want to do it their way and they want to make sure that their influence is seen and felt. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but I have a way that I need to do. I need to put the process in place in our organization, and I know what I'm looking for. And so having somebody who's willing to put the hours in to work through the frustration, but is okay getting to the result that the organization is looking for, has worked out better for us. You know, over quarantine, over COVID, we had 10 team members prior to shutdown in March last year. And I'm responsible for hiring at our organization. And we just reached our 39th team member, and we're going to add another 7 over the course of the next 2 weeks. So I am in the throes of interviews and assessing this. And sometimes there is a rare occasion where there's a part of the organization that there's an issue or there's something that we really need attention on that our executive team can oversee, but shouldn't be the person that's really figuring that out and solving that. And that's where I'm willing to say, okay, I don't care as much about the willingness that has to be there, but I need somebody who is skilled and who has done this before, who's run $10 million budgets before and can help me figure out this problem.
Yeah, so it depends what the role is, but I think what I'm hearing is that, you know, you're systemizing the business, and so basically what you need are, you know, where it has to be a human being, then that human being needs to be able sort of to take on what those processes and procedures are and to implement within the system, and, you know, be prepared to be pushed out of their comfort zone to learn and just to get better and better and better within that system. I think that's what you're saying there. Yep, unless it's quite a technical role, an unusual role, somewhere we need to bring additional skill in to sort of resolve a problem. If you were sort of starting a business from scratch, and you are, I mean, obviously you've gone from 10 to 39, which is very significant, particularly during the pandemic. But if you were starting from scratch, are there any particular roles that you'd be recommending to a startup individual as to where they should hire first? Should it be on the sales side? Should it be on the operation side? Or does it depend on their skill level?
We always want people to hire more salespeople in order to create customer problems, because once you have somebody who's paying for something, all of a sudden you will figure out the operations, you will deliver. You have to trust that you are a good and ethical person, and that even if you don't have said product in place, when you're selling the client, you know that the operations will be built in time and it will be delivered in the time that the client that is deemed good enough or great for the client. And there is always that tension and friction there, but the more clients that you have, then the more revenue that you can throw at adding team members who can service that revenue.
Yeah, that really makes sense. And are you an advocate of funneling in, so automating your client acquisition, or is it better to sort of hit the phones, or is it a combination? What's your thoughts there?
I think it's a combination depending on the business type. You know, our lowest service offering is a $5,000 product. There's nobody that is going to just buy that on the internet, and we know that. Most of our clients are not as internet based in their product. It takes a physical human being picking up a phone, calling people, making relationships. For those people who have businesses that have figured out the online, like, we would love to learn from that. I know Grant does an amazing job on his his products with his books and other materials. We're just not in that space, and we help business owners that aren't necessarily in that space either, because it seems like the online world has a lot of information for them. We handle the leadership piece, we handle the operations piece, we handle the marketing pieces outside of that, but the sales process being automated online is just not something that we're as skilled in. We know how to train people.
It's very, very hands-on, I think, from what I've seen of the work that you do, which is incredible. Just another quick question that people have asked me a lot is about when you're deciding if you're going from sort of 10 to 39 and 47, as you said, it's not always plain sailing. I know from my own experience when I take people on and they're lovely people and they would appear to have a great attitude and everything, and for whatever reason, it just doesn't work. They don't fit properly, or they're just not getting the results. Sometimes great people, but they're just not getting that result. How long do you leave it? Again, I guess you have a procedure for that. What would you say to business owners? When is the time when they have to say, look, this is not working, and how do they do that? It's uncomfortable for people, isn't it?
Yeah, nobody loves to fire somebody, but as soon as you do fire your first underperforming team member, the rest of the team knows what type of team members you're looking for. And so it is a necessary evil for us. I do that as fast as possible. And our team takes the high performance side of our business very seriously because of it, because you feel that energy when somebody isn't doing their job or they don't quite fit. And to the extent that you just let it exist for 3 months or 6 months or a year, you are draining the resources that you want to be adding that extra energy. And so this is why processes are so important. Most people, they don't just leave somebody there because they want to, they leave somebody there because they have to. There's a dependency upon the client relationships or how good of a salesperson they are, or whatever the result might be. And so you just have to be so focused on, how do I make it not interdependent upon a person? It's dependent upon a role, and I can fill that role when I can remove this person out. And for us, the vision of the organization, the mission of the organization, and the team, the culture that we're protecting is far greater than letting somebody sit in the environment and just be a leech in it. Like, that doesn't work for us. And so the shortest amount of time it's taken me to fire somebody that I felt pretty good about in the interview process was a week and a half. The longest is probably 2 months, and that's always too long. But for the 39 people, we've had 9 people not work out, and I'm good with that. A lot of people in the HR world talk about, oh, you want to have a low attrition and you want to be able to retain. Like, I will never be a perfect hirer. I know what I'm looking for, and I'm willing to make hard decisions to get people in and then get them out if I've made the wrong decision, and don't have a lot of ego associated with that. The right decision is always to bring more talent in, to raise the bar for everybody else in the environment, not try to keep my percentage high.
No, I totally agree. And I think also businesses change, don't they, as they grow, and as the economy changes and as the client demands change. Businesses change, business needs change, and sometimes someone can work out great to start off with in a business and then not be appropriate and not appropriate for that role. And sometimes you can move them sideways, but sometimes you just come to the end of the road with an individual. I really want to hear a little bit more about the 360 program that you run, the 10x 360. It's amazing. I mean, it fits. There's so many synergies of that program with the YBMB program. For mine, what we realized was that there were these fundamentals to get right first, which is on the body and then on the mindset, and then we go into business strategies. And I have a particular model that I myself have created from being in business for 40 years. And I cover innovation, marketing, sales, finance, operations, a raving fan base, and a trust culture as well. But you guys go is significantly deeper than that. I've seen some of the content that you run, and I haven't actually been in person to any of your courses, but I know some people who have. And you were just saying to me before we came online that you've put together a virtual offering. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, the virtual option has been so cool because obviously the world is shut down right now, and we do have clients who are across the country, or they are in lockdown in different continents or countries like you guys. And so the virtual option for us, we have our CEO and founder, who's also my fiance, Brandon. And I think one of the biggest takeaways and aha moments for people is how much it is actually on the leader of the organization to set the tone for how the scaling of the business will work. And to the extent that somebody has never thought about what does 10 years really look like? And if I'm serious about these goals that I have, what pieces do I need to have in place? And what things do I have no idea that are coming, that are what we call breakpoints, that if you don't make these technical movements when you're at certain revenue sizes, your business plan could be hindered just like this. And people who have done it before, they know what those are. They know what the process is. They know what the technology breaks are. But oftentimes business owners, because they're gritty and they just know that they've been able to figure things out, if they just made slight technical movements here and knew what those moments were, all of a sudden they can go around it and actually hit the goal instead of running up against this thing that could potentially be catastrophic, or a lawsuit or employee issues that don't allow you to get to where you want to go. And then you're just perpetually stuck in this place instead of being able to move on to the next level to get to the ultimate goal, which was whatever the business owner decided. We also talk a lot about financial transparency and goal transparency, which I know that we're in alignment on this. If you have, as a business owner, a body goal or you have a revenue target, it's just as much your responsibility to share that you're goal oriented with your team, who you're also asking for them to fight for your goals. Like that relationship has to exist. And we find that business owners don't want to talk about their financials with their team, or they don't want to put something out there in case, because there's like this hierarchy, and it actually creates the opposite effect that they're looking for, because they don't seem real and tangible to the team that they're working with. And so we talk a lot about, okay, how do you set a goal? How do you continue to share progress to that goal and build a team around you who says, oh, I like these issues, let's go attack these together, instead of you being at the front of the organization making a presentation while everybody just wants to go home and turn on Netflix. It's building this high performance environment that most people just, they've never done it before. They've never been a part of it. And so they get to see what ours looks like and what we do to create that. And then also how they can make those shifts in their own culture.
It's great. And are there ever times where you'll see a business owner has been struggling maybe for years? Because I know you get some sort of mature business owners as well. It's not just startups. People have businesses for years and they come to you. Do you ever look at a business and you look at the situation and you actually take the view that maybe this business now is the wrong business for the current economy, and maybe they should stop that business and start something else? Because a business is not forever, is it? And many entrepreneurs go through periods where they have several businesses. So are there times where you actually conclude that and someone goes off and sort of starts again or closes the business, or what's your thoughts?
Absolutely. I think Tony Robbins was the one who said, we're not trees and we can move, like we can pivot. We're not rooted to this one thing or this one place. And so if you are in a business and you have a 5% profit margin, but you want to have a $500 million net worth, and you start to really, if you're serious about a goal and you start to calculate, okay, is this the right vehicle for me to get to where I want to go? And logically you can conclude, no, it doesn't matter how much you have invested, that it was your father's, grandfather's, cousins, whatever, you make a decision to pivot so that there are options available to you to have what you actually want. And yes, those conversations happen all the time, because people just don't know what they don't know and realize that they're stuck when they come and we have these conversations.
Yeah, I think that, the key is to do the right thing, obviously, but it's the right thing at the right time. And, you could have been doing some great work as a business owner or an entrepreneur as well. I guess you have people there who sort of work for other businesses as well. Could have been doing some great work, and it really could have worked 5-10 years ago. but this is a very, very different world. So I think that business owners more than ever now need input from programs and people like yourself. So Natalie, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure listening, and I'm sure that the people listening have learned lots as well. So I know it's morning for you, so I said that we needed you for half an hour. We've just gone on a little bit longer. So anything else that you wanted to add for us, or have we? We've got some great sort of nuggets of information from you there.
No, I appreciate you having me. I want people to leave feeling motivated and inspired to take control of whatever it is that you can do today, with the mindset of tomorrow is built on today. So if you need to work out, like, shut everything down, go to the gym, do the things that you know are going to build the foundation, because those small decisions are what make the big things a whole lot less scary.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, have a lovely day, and thanks so much for talking to us today, Natalie.
Thank you. You too.